Locho Sampo Pagyo Tashipa Uche Tempe Chile Yarmoda Belge Drolor Zampe Zeparache Palden Lame Shabla Solvade Oma Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Oma Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Varda Nishri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma. Sound is okay? It's coming? Yeah. Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timunisha Sanekar Uta Vardanya Shri Badra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Dhagi Chetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Sikso So Gibe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Seche Nine Sowa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Viso Lekshune Yela Sambe Dode Malupa Geme Lunge Drubra Jingelo Soni Sodan Dikten Shape Tse Dunge Namke Yinso Lekshune Labchen Soni Yonso Tsopadan Chera Nidun Chanra Jingelo Chancho Parge Ninsen Tukun To Nyu Peme Siodro Lekshune Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen Dela Drubra Jingelo Dagi Lona Chela Chopadan Chemi Samjor Ngimba Shiwata Chedan Tumbe Dode Malupa Beme Lungi Drubra Jingelo Dorna Tingne Tsera Tamchedan Techi Pardo Neka Tamche Rese Kyamne Lama Keleme Tukche Chengi Dala Sikso So Gongya Dreve Nyamda Dachala Chetsun Lame Tuje Rabgone Koda Sungi Nawa Dralmet Nyamso Nyungwe Kesan Toprasho Kewa Kundo Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Longche Chin Sadan Lamge Yende Rabzone dorje change koba nyur toba shoya pakyuke kodan da gelo pakyuke sondan da gena pakyuke turdan da geyi tenyerme çıktı çingelo makyuke kodan da gelo makyuke sondan da gena makyuke turdan da geyi tenyerme çıktı çingelo saşipöye ki çuşimeto rabalimşi nidegem padi sangeshinto mikte ulvargi drokunam dashinla chöpar shoyedam guru ratna mandala kam niryatayami sangye chedan soge chanamla chancho pardo dani kepsochi dage chushe gibe sonamge drola penchre sange druparashu sange chedan soge chanamla chancho pardo dani kepsochi dage chushe gibe sonamge drola penchre sange druparashu sange chedan soge chonamla chancho pardo dani kepsochi dage chinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchre sange druparashu. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, as was said by Lama Tsongkhapa, to abandon the three faulty recipients, basically it's the importance for us to be able to be present in the present moment, to abandon the different forms of distraction. So the examples is that we have one container which is basically, it's like a vase, the image that is used. In the first case, the vase is upside down. In the second, the vase is in the right position, but it's dirty with poison. And in the third case, the vase is in the right position, it can be clean, but it has different holes in it. So, if the vase is in the right position, if the vase is upside down, it doesn't matter how much nectar or pure water you pour into it, it will not keep any. If the vase is in the right position, but it's dirty with poison, even a little bit of poison, it doesn't matter how pure water you put into it, it will be poisoned. And in the third case, when the vase is in the right position, it can even be completely clean, When it has holes in it, it doesn't matter how much you pour into it, it will gradually lose it. So in the first case, it means when we are physically present in the place of the teachings, but mentally away. So this is an example when we are in the place of the teachings, but our mind is wandering who knows where. Or when we are physically present, but we are asleep. Sometimes we are half asleep, and we are even saying to ourselves, I'm listening, but actually we are not. Truly we are not able to keep anything. And so this is this is the most gross way, the most clear way that we should avoid. So I am here, I should be present here where I am. And that's important. We have time after to think about all the rest, but right now we are here. And we should give the right value of being here. So, similar to the fact that when we do meditation, any thought that arises, which is not the object of meditation, we do not block and we do not follow. Similar to that, when we are listening to teachings, any other thought that may come, we do not block and we do not follow. We just gently bring our attention back to the teachings that we are listening. Because our mind is not really trained to be fully concentrated. No? If we would take, there have been some great masters and practitioners that they had full capacity of concentration. But it's not the case of most of us. No? I don't know, it remembers me, I have not seen it, but it was said that when Kyabche Paponka Rinpoche was giving the teachings of Lamring, there were few disciples there. One of them was Kyabche Trichan Rinpoche. And they would be single-pointed, concentrated, and they would write word by word that he was saying, as he was saying. And they had this ability of writing without looking at the paper. So they were looking at him, and they would just go, And this is why we have nowadays texts such as liberation in the palm of your hand, and so on. So, I don't think many of us do have such capacity of full concentration. So we need to take care, we need to protect ourselves, because it's a very precious moment that we have when we listen to Dharma. So when distractions come, and it's just one little sound and our mind is following that sound. One little thing here and there, and then we follow it right away. So we need to protect ourselves from it. So whenever we see that the mind slips away, we don't block that other thought, but we gently bring the mind back to the object, which in this case is not even the sound, it's the meaning that we go through as we listen to the teachings. Okay? In the second case, if we listen to anyone, or if we read anything, it doesn't matter who it may be. If we listen with anger, with jealousy, with envy, with any form of preconcept, prejudgment, we will pollute what we receive. So we cannot actually really trust what we listen when in the moment of listening our mental defilements such as anger, jealousy, arrogance and so on are strongly manifested. Because if as I listen to you I have very strong, not even very strong, but my arrogance is manifested, as I listen, I say, okay, but who are you to tell me this? And is it really maybe this like that? And then maybe there is together comes the mind of uncertainty. Then comes the judgment. And then if there is anger and also on, we will transform because we listen to others through the filter of ourselves. And when this filter is polluted with anger, with attachment, with fear, with jealousy, with envy or any other negative emotion in this way, what we receive comes through that filter. So it doesn't matter how pure it may be, it will come in dirty. So we need to be able to protect ourselves from that by, in the beginning of the teachings and in the period that we receive teachings, we should first do some meditation. That's why in the morning we start with meditation and the practice. Then after, when we start the teachings, we always do the mantras of the lineage gurus, and then we do a generation of the motivation, and so on. First of all, we need to bring our mind at least to a neutral state. Then we can generate a good motivation. But first we must bring ourselves to a neutral state. And one of the things to help that is just to remember, it doesn't matter what happens after. Now I am here. And I should give the right value to this moment. The third vessel is one of the vase, it's in the right position, but it has holes. And I'm sorry to say, but I think most of us cannot really overcome this fully. It's, as we said before, we don't have the perfect full attention. And because our presence is not fully in the present moment, as things come, we let them go. So I don't know how much each one of you can retain of the information that you receive. But very rarely I've ever seen someone that has the ability of retaining 100% of what he or she receives. As we receive, we slowly let go one part and the other. So here, it is important for us to give the right value to the moment in which we are. It's a matter of respect also. It's a matter of respect to the who is teaching, that we give our full attention. It's a matter of respect for the Dharma itself. It's a matter of respect for the path that we choose to follow. And it's most of all a matter of respect for our own selves. We choose to take our time, which means life that is precious. We live in a life that most of our life we need to dedicate for our livelihood and so on. And we take this very precious time that we have. And we need to value it, we need to respect it. And we choose to come here to listen into the Dharma, and then what we do, there we are thinking about politics or who knows what. And we are not present, and we are not there. So in this moment, out of respect for ourselves, out of respect for our gurus, out of respect for the Dharma, everything else, we will have time to think about it. Right now we are here. So we should allow ourselves to bring our attention to the present moment. And we should make the best that we can out of this moment that we have together. For whatever reasons, here we are. Who knows why and how. But the fact is that we should make the best out of it. Okay. I was thinking where to start from, because to begin with the commentary of the Guru Puja, we could go through the text and we could explain the meaning of the verses. That's easy. But mainly, I want first to try to share with you what's the actual meaning of the Guru Puja, what it is. And then based on that, then we can go through the text and so on, these days that as they come. So, first of all, in our lives, we have different aspects of our mind, of our life itself. There is one part which is our conceptual mind, which is the union of all the concepts that we develop during this lifetime, which is the result of the knowledge that we learn, is the result of the culture in which we grow, of the social context, of the religion, and we have a whole set combination of concepts that we call the view, is our worldview. Is how we see reality, is what is right, is what is wrong, what exists, what doesn't exist, how things are. We have our whole view, which has been built up. One part of this view we bring from life to life. But most of it we build up during this lifetime. And it's very superficial, actually. A lot of it. And it's very important. The view is very important because depending the view, it will determine the direction that we give to ourselves and our lives. So the view is fundamentally important. Tibetan is called tawa. And it's something that is very, very important, the view of reality. That's why even the central part of the path is to develop the correct view of reality. But we all have our own view. Okay? which I repeat is the result of habits that we have, that we bring from life to life, and it's the result also of the knowledge of what we have learned and experienced during this life, but very strongly influenced by the culture, by the concepts that we receive. Okay. Another part of us, much stronger, is our own habits, which traditionally is called the conduct, Chöpa. The conduct is basically the way how we act, physically, verbally, and mentally. And the way how we act and we react, it's not based on what we know. It's based on what we have experienced. We do not act based on knowledge. We act based on experience, on habits. We repeat patterns of habits that we have accumulated and created through our life. And there are two different ways of creating habits. One is by direct experiences. When we have a strong experience about something, it leaves a mark. And then that mark influences everything that comes afterwards. It can be a mark like what we call trauma, which is something that's based on suffering. And then afterwards we are not able to deal with situations without being influenced by that mark. It can be very positive marks. We meet someone wonderful and then we have this very strong connection and then we feel this deep love and then we are influenced by it afterwards. There are many different ways, but direct experiences, they create new habits, new patterns. Or we need to generate artificial, which is known spontaneous ways of acting physically, verbally, and mentally that will gradually create new habits. The more I act in a certain way, the more I will act in that way. It creates patterns by repetition. This is how we are made. And this has an incredible strong impact in ourselves because the patterns that we follow, they are not only of external habits like what I eat and so on. And sure, if I am used to eat chocolate every day at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and every time I eat chocolate, I am making that pattern stronger. I am making that habit stronger. On the other way, every time I react with aggression, I am making that habit stronger. Every time I complain, I am making that habit stronger. Every time I rejoice, I am making that habit stronger. Every time I react with faith or with respect or with gratitude, I am making that habit stronger. So the more angry I become, the deeper anger will be within myself. Because they are habits, they are patterns that we create within our own mind stream. The way how we speak goes like this, the way how we act physically goes like this also. The habits that we already have, there is not so much that we can do about it. In the sense that they are there and we follow them. Because when we are in front of the situations, we don't act much based on what we know, but mostly based on what are our own habits and patterns. Knowing is not enough. So how do we create new habits? By new interactions. So when we interact with new situations, we have new experiences, we direct ourselves in a way which is not the common way that we are used to do, then gradually we can create new habits and we can change the old ones. And we are doing this daily, every moment of our life, willingly or not. So, habits can be created in a very subtle way also, actually not so subtle even, but I just remember one time I was with a person and this person was having a repetition of a way of complaining and going in conflict with someone else, and it was very harmful for the person. himself and for the other person also. It was not a good situation. And I tried to explain to him in all different ways how and why, and gently, and explain you shouldn't do like this and because of this, and it was of no benefit. Then one day I was alone with this person, and then suddenly the person again entered the same pattern, and then I just said, okay, I tried in the kind way, let's try in the hard way. So I start making a sort of theater, because that's not part of my own nature, and I start shouting, and I try to make it strong, to make, okay, it must look real. So I start shouting, and I hit my hand, and I make in the strongest way as I could. And somehow it worked, temporarily. The main thing is that sometime later, a few weeks later, I got into the same situation again with the same person. And then I thought, okay, it worked faster in the hard way, let's try it again. And the first time I did it, it was really painful. It was really painful to react with such aggression. For me, it was not part of my nature. It was really painful to do it. Second time that I did it, it was much less painful. Sometime later, I found myself in a similar situation again, and almost without thinking, I started to react in the same way. Luckily, I could look upon myself and I could say, stop it. And I could see how easily it was to fall into a new habit. Because my whole life I have never reacted aggressively. It's not part of my own nature. I have other faults, but not this one. And then because artificially I reacted aggressively once, twice, the third time is almost naturally coming. So we create patterns very quickly, very easily. So we have the power to choose new habits and to make old habits somehow weaker. We have the possibility to deal with it. And this happens by the situations that we go out daily, the people that we meet, the interactions that we have, the places that we go, the words that we say, the thoughts that we have. There is the possibility of directing ourselves by creating new habits and changing the old ones. And this traditionally is called Gompa, which is mostly translated as meditation, but I don't think it's a very good translation. I would translate it mostly as familiarization. And the whole path is divided into view, conduct, and familiarization. Tawa, Chöpa, Gompa. And about the view, we study, we learn, we create new concepts and so on, and that's wonderful, and that's beautiful, and that's important. About the conduct, we try, but somehow we are following the habits. It's in the familiarization where we can truly make the change. Okay? As we have seen, we are mostly made out of habits. And to create new habits, there are basically mainly two ways. One way of creating a new habit is having a direct experience, which is the best way, but it's not so easy. To have strong, direct experiences, virtuous, positive experiences, is not so simple. It's not so easy. And then there is the other way of inducing oneself through recitation, through visualization, into a certain state of consciousness, and by that creating a new habit, okay, our own mind. So as I was saying before, how to introduce the Guru Puja, because we will go through the verses, the meaning of the verses, the visualizations to do, but this is for me at least, this is the easy part. This is technical information, which we have written in books, and we can read it and we can study it, and everything is there. But the main issue is that by reciting this, what is the state of consciousness that I should generate? That is an antidote to what defilement that I must apply. And we should understand that the Guru Puja is not a ceremony. It's not a text that we should recite because we want to be a good Buddhist. Who cares about being a good Buddhist? That's not what we are here for. We are here in order to use this powerful tool. It's a tool that is like a hammer, but if you keep the hammer hanged on the wall, it doesn't, not so useful. You need to use it for its purpose. But if you take the tool and really, in order to eliminate one's defilements, develop one's qualities by developing new positive habits, especially because, as it is said in different commentaries, I was reading one of the commentaries of the Guru Puja, which is called Kachin Lumkurma, which is named the commentary of the Guru Puja, that the name is the Kachim, how you say in English, Testamento,
will.
The will, like when a person dies, the will carried by the wind is the name of this commentary. It's one of the not so common commentaries of the Guru Puja. Anyhow, and it was putting very clear in the beginning of it, saying, if you are physically, personally in front of your Guru, and you are able to follow the correct way of acting mentally, internally and externally, you don't need to recite one word, you don't need to do one visualization, you are doing the actual direct practice. You are creating the direct experience. When you don't have the opportunity of having the direct experience, then we must induce ourselves to the experience through visualization and recitation and so on. And the mind has this incredible capacity that once it has the ability of familiarizing itself, as Geshe Chekawa, the same master that wrote in the 11th century the 7 verses, the 7-point mind training, he said, the mind is full of faults or defects, but it has one great quality. Whatever you teaches, it follows. And that's it, you know. Why can we become a Buddha? Because we are interdependent, because we are made out of habits. If we direct ourselves in a way, we will follow. We are not inherently ignorant. We are interdependently ignorant. And the more we follow in one way, the more we continue to follow in that way. So how to create new direction, how to create new habits of body, speech and mind, new patterns? By having more direct experiences, and this is the most beautiful but very difficult to create them also. Because having direct experiences doesn't mean only being physically at a certain situation. It means having the right inner attitude within the external context and being able to have one's own heart deeply touched in a non-conceptual way. That's not so obvious. Okay? For example, doing the correct Guru Puja in a direct way, it doesn't mean just to be by the side of our own Guru and saying, oh, how nice you are, and smiling and being respectful. It goes much beyond that. But after we talk about this. But the mind has a very special capacity, which is, even scientifically speaking, it says that what we imagine and what we experience directly through our senses, the mind is not able to make distinction between the two. So, if I reflect upon the meaning of something, I am cultivating view, I'm cultivating concepts. But when I imagine a situation, when I imagine something, and I generate a certain state of consciousness out of that imagination, I am creating new experiences. And it's through experiences that we create habits. And it's by repeating experiences that we create habits. By repeating physical, verbal, and mental experiences that we create physical, verbal, and mental habits. So the Guru Puja as a sadhana, it's a tool, as every other sadhana, to help us to generate certain states of consciousness, to generate certain habits, in order for us to eliminate others. It's a very powerful tool that can guide us from the very beginning of the path until the ultimate state of enlightenment. As we go through the Guru Puja, we don't have that much time, so I don't know if we will go through the whole complete Guru Puja, but still, there are 3 levels of explanation that we can go through. The first level is how to recite. That's simple. Just read. Then you can listen to the melodies, and then you can understand the meaning of the words. There you are learning how to recite, and that's important. It's beautiful, it's good. But that's the first entry level. Second level is what to visualize. So you're not only reciting, you're also following a visualization. You are enhancing your experience. The third level is what state of consciousness to generate. Because the words are there to direct the mind, and the visualization is there to direct the mind. So as we recite in one verse, we are supposed to generate a certain state of consciousness. And that's the real thing. That's when we really create the experience that will create the habits. Okay? So, I wanted first of all to make clear to everyone that Guru Puja is a tool, powerful tool. It's this practice of Guru Yoga. And it has the function of helping us to accumulate merits, to purify our own negativities, to develop the antidotes in order to eliminate our defilements. It has many functions within it. And it also has the function to help us to cultivate the first basis of the path, which is to rely correctly upon our own spiritual guide. And that's the very, very basis of the path. And Buddha Shakyamuni in his teachings have repeated very oftenly, both in Sutra and Tantra, the importance of relying correctly upon the Guru. And the importance of relying correctly upon the Guru, the faults of not relying correctly upon the Guru, how to rely mentally and how to rely externally upon the Guru. So this is something that comes again and again on the Sutra and again on the Tantra. On the Sutra mainly when we go through the teachings of the Vinaya, this is very clearly explained, and in the Tantra it's very often repeated also. So, then there is the whole part of the importance of accumulation of merit, of purification of our negativities, and of familiarization with the different states of consciousness of the path to enlightenment. We will go through each one of these points as we go through the text, okay? But I wanted to put emphasis in the part which for me is most meaningful, because some things we can read. Nowadays the commentaries are available, we can take it, we can read it, we can study it, but really at each part of the practice it's a very powerful antidote for what? And what state of consciousness we should develop within it. Okay? And someone may tell me, but it's difficult to generate antidotes and to eliminate our defilements. And I would say, yes, it is difficult. But it's much more difficult to remain in it. But we have this opportunity, and it's extremely, extremely precious to have this opportunity. Okay? So I would say we go slowly through the text, and then slowly we will get more and more into the actual meaning of it. I personally have received the commentary of the Guru Puja 3 times in my life. The first time I didn't understand. I understood something, but I don't remember anything. I was very young. I was 12. And I was in the north of India, received from the Dalai Lama the commentary of the Guru Puja. But normally I do not count that because I don't remember anything. But still I was there and I received the transmission. Then I received some years later, I was around 16, 18, something like this, I received from Kyabche Dragon Rinpoche the commentary, that I remember quite well. And in Nepal, and then some years later I received again the commentary of the Guru Puja in Tibet from the abbot of Tashilumpo, Kachin Lobsang Chökyi Gyältsen. So I have had this special opportunity So I'm very happy to be able to share in the best of my abilities with everyone. Okay? So, let's start from the beginning. So, as we go now through the text, Guru Puja, it's a practice that goes beyond the actual text. The text that we follow nowadays, that is well known as Guru Puja, was mostly written by Panchen Chökyi Gyältsen in the 16th century, maybe beginning of 17th century, anyhow. And the first verses were written by his guru, Kedru Sangye, who himself also wrote another version of Guru Puja. Okay, because the Guru Puja is not one specific text. The Guru Puja is a sadhana, it's a system, it's a tool, which is said to be Lamgisok. Lamgisok means the life force of the path. Which means if this life force is present, anything else can grow. If it's not present, nothing else can grow on this path to enlightenment. And this life force of the Guru Yoga practice is what has been practiced as the most important part of one's own path. From our own root gurus, going backwards until Buddha Shakyamuni. So, going through our gurus, going through Panchen Chökyi Gyältsen, since the time of Panchen Chökyi Gyältsen, it has been practiced using these very precise words. Not only, but specially. But before that, he received these teachings from Kedru Sangye, that received from Gyawa Ensapa, that goes back up to Lama Tsongkhapa, then Lama Tsongkhapa from different masters such as Jetsun Rendawa or Buddha Manjushri himself, that goes backwards until Atisha, then Atisha goes back into all his gurus, especially Lama Serlimpa, then going backwards until reaching Nagarjuna, Asanga, Shantideva, going backwards through the 8 bodhisattvas such as Manjushri and Maitreya and Vajrapani and so on, and from that going back to Buddha Shakyamuni. So we have a direct line of transmission in which in all these more than 25 centuries, the essence or the life force of the path is being practiced as the practice so-called Guru Yoga. And we have the ability to be able to go through it, to receive it. And this is something that is of extreme great preciousness. So, I personally have received the commentary of the Guru Puja as written by Panchen Chökyi Gyältsen. I have received it 3 times. The first time I do not remember much about it, which was from the Dalai Lama when I was 12 in 94. Then I received again by Kyabche, a few years later by Kyabche Trangwa Rinpoche, and then later by the abbot of Tashi Lumpo, Khenpo Kachin Losam Punso Rinpoche. And for me, it's a great joy to be able somehow to share with you in the best of my abilities. So let's go from the beginning of the text. Okay? So, as we start with the text, the title says, Salam Lama Chöbe Choka Dedon Yermema Tsok Chodan Cheba Shuksos. The profound path, a ritual offering to the Guru, called Inseparable Bliss and Emptiness, with Tsok, or with Gana Chakra. The original text is called the Guru Puja. Guru Puja, or a Lama Chöbe Choka, which is a ritual offering to the Guru. In this case, it's known as the profound path, because it is by itself a complete path to enlightenment. It's profound because it brings the practitioner from its own state of being up to the state of eliminating fully one's defilements and developing completely one's own qualities. It has this ability within itself. So this is something that is called the profound path. The original name is a ritual offering to the Guru. But the ritual of offering to the Guru, which is part of the practices of Guru Yoga, there are many texts of it. This is not a unique text that Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyältsen wrote. His guru, Kyedrup Sangye Yeshe, wrote at least 3 different versions of Guru Puja. And there are many other versions of Guru Puja written by many other great masters. So this is not the only one. So to distinguish one from another versions of Guru Puja, most of the Guru Pujas are very similar. They have similar structure, but one is putting emphasis in one part, the other one is putting emphasis on another. And it was something somehow quite common to write the different texts of Guru Puja. But then, when Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyältsen wrote his version of Guru Puja, it was written so well. It's so perfect in so many aspects that from that time on, it became the Guru Puja. So from the time of Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyältsen, all the masters that came after, no one wrote new versions of Guru Puja because that one was already so excellent that there was no need to write new versions of it. But there still exist many versions of Guru Puja. So to distinguish one version from the other, one of the ways is by giving a name to each one. And this one is called Inseparable Bliss and Emptiness. The reason why it's called Inseparable Bliss and Emptiness, we could give long explanations of the meaning of the Inseparable Bliss and Emptiness, but there's a very practical reason from my understanding. It's that the original text starts in verse number 9. Because verse number 8, basically, it is, on the original text, it was just instructions. And the verses that comes before, actually from verse 1 to 6, they were all coming from Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyältsen's guru, Kyedrup Sangye Yeshe, from one of the texts of Guru Puja of Kyedrup Sangye Yeshe. In the original text, Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyältsen just says, and we are going to read it, or you should do the taking refuge, generation, the bodhicitta, and so on. He doesn't write the precise verses for it. So when it was put together, it took the verses from Kyedrup Sangye Yeshe. So the Guru Puja written by Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyältsen originally starts with the recitation in verse number 9. Which starts with Deton Yerme Halayam para Quinsan Chuatim Triperu. So, in the vast sky of indivisible bliss and emptiness, in Tibetan, Deton Yerme are the first words of the text. Dewa, bliss, Tongpa, emptiness, Yerme, indivisible. So, indivisible bliss and emptiness. So that's why the name of the text is Inseparable, Indivisible Bliss and Emptiness, because Deton Yerme. That's the original first verses of the text, first words of the text. This basically is in order to distinguish one Guru Puja from another Guru Puja. Okay? So maybe there is another very deep meaning, but in a practical level, that's why it's called. Similar when we have the Guru Yoga of Lama Tsongkhapa, of Gandela Gyema. No? It's called Gandela Gyema. Why? Because the first line says Gandela Gye Gongi Tukarne. So Gandela Gye, Gandela Gyema. That's why it's given that name to it. So similar to that, in this case, it's Deton Yerme Ma. So-called inseparable bliss and emptiness. Okay. And in this case, we have it together with the Tzok. The Tzok is not something that was originally part of the main text, but it's traditionally also being practiced together. Anyhow, I'm very happy that we have just printed this new version of the Guru Puja. It is very special for me because all the previous versions that we have published here, or that I have seen published elsewhere, the only exception is the commentary that has been published of the Guru Puja, translated by David Gonzalez. With the exception of that commentary, all the other versions that I have seen published of the Guru Puja, they take into consideration only the main text. And the instructions that Panchen Losang Chökyi Gyältsen wrote, they were not translated. And in Tibetan texts, we have what we call the main text, and then there is the instructions, which is called traditionally Yikchung, which means small letters. And in all the texts, you have like the big letters is what you are supposed to recite, and the small letters, which physically are smaller, is what you are not supposed to recite, but are the instructions. And very often the instructions are more important than what you are supposed to recite in many sadhanas. So it's very, very important always to read carefully the instructions and to translate the instructions. And for whatever reasons, for a very long time, the Guru Puja has been published without the instructions that were written by Panchen Lobsang Chökyi Gyältsen. So since some time, we went through the translation of the instructions, and then now here we publish the version with the instructions written by Panchen Lobsang Chökyi Gyältsen. Okay? So I'm very, very happy with this version that we have just published. So we will start now by reading the introduction to the Guru Puja written by Panchen Lobsang Chökyi Gyältsen himself, which is the very beginning of the instructions. Okay? As we go through the introduction, I was thinking to go more to it, but finally we remain just in the first line of the introduction, which says, in Sanskrit, Guru Puja Sya Kalpa Nama. That's the original name in Sanskrit. Then, if we take the whole name in Sanskrit given to this version of the Guru Puja, is said, Gabira Marga Guru Puja Vid Sukha Shunya Bedya Sak Gana Chakram, which is the complete name, which in Tibetan is Lama Chepechoka Deden Yermema Tsolchodan Chepa. And in English it will be Inseparable Bliss and Emptiness Ritual Offering to the Guru. Okay? The original name itself is only Guru Puja Sya Kalpa Nama. That's the precise original name, which is just the ritual offering to the Guru. The reason why it is given the name in Sanskrit in the very beginning, it's not because this text was originally written in Sanskrit, because that's what happened normally when there is a text that was originally written in Sanskrit. I don't know, take the Ornament of Clear Realization, or you can take the Heart Sutra, or you can take any other texts. Then when it's being done the translation into Tibetan, they always kept first the original title. So in Sanskrit is Pranjana Paramita Hridaya Mahayana Sutra, whatever, okay? So then there is in Tibetan is Shiragipara whatever, so it comes the title under. In this case, it's not that, because this text was written in Tibet. It's not a text that was written in Sanskrit and was later translated into Tibetan. So someone may ask, so then why is this title added in Sanskrit also? The reason for that is to show to us that it comes from an uninterrupted lineage. Even though the text originally was written in Tibetan, the practice, the system, the tool has been given from master to disciple, from Buddha Shakyamuni up to Panchen Lobsang Chökyi Gyältsen. So he's showing to us that it comes from a pure lineage, and this is extremely important. It is said that whenever we go through a spiritual practice or a spiritual system, we must assure ourselves of two things: that the source is pure and that it has not been contaminated in between. So it's just like when we go to drink water. If we go to drink water from a stream, which I don't know if any one of you ever have done it or does any often, before it was very common. But actually when we drink water, we must make sure of two things. First, that the source is pure. Because if the source is polluted, we are drinking poison. Second, we must make sure that from the source to us it was not contaminated. Because maybe one small contamination, like when you go to drink water in the mountain, one important thing is not to check if there is not any village passing by before, or things like that. So to make sure that the water was not contaminated. No? So similar to that, first thing, we must make sure that the teachings come from a pure source. And this pure source is Buddha Shakyamuni. Because Buddha didn't give the teachings based only on technical understanding. It's not that Buddha went to the greatest universities and learned a lot of knowledge and made a master and a PhD, whatever, and then wrote many books and became the greatest of all scholars and had a lot of knowledge and made his own system out of a lot of study. No. Buddha had a direct experience of eliminating his defilements and developing his qualities to the maximum potential, of true love, of true wisdom. And that direct experience was later passed to the disciples in different words, in different ways, according to their abilities and capacities. So, this is a much greater value, because both in Buddhist tradition and also in ancient Hindu tradition, it is very clearly stated that anyone teaching someone else or guiding someone else into anything cannot teach or transmit to the other more than the teacher himself or herself has realized. In other words, if I have only knowledge about something, I can transmit only knowledge. If I have realized a certain state of consciousness, I can help the other one to realize that state of consciousness. That's why normally when we look for our own gurus and teachers, it's more important to look for people that have realizations than people that have knowledge. This is another thing, but this is another subject. So Buddha Shakyamuni had this great experience, and not only knowledge, but that all the teachings come from his direct experience. So the teachings come from a pure source. So we must make sure to know that the teachings that we are receiving are actually coming from the teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni. It was not something that someone made up in between. There is a whole way of checking that, which we're not going through that right now. Second, we must make sure that it was not polluted in between. How can we make sure of that? There were great masters that were able to practice correct Buddha's teachings, such as what are called in Tibetan Gyendruk Chokni, which is the 6 ornaments and the 2 excellents, which is the 8 great masters of India, which are namely the 2 excellent is Nagarjuna and Asanga. Then there are other masters such as Vasubandhu, Chandrakirti, then there is Shantideva, many other great masters that they have kept purely. Especially Nagarjuna and Asanga, they were called Shinta Solche, which means the ones that reopened the road or the path for the chariot to go. Okay? Basically, the meaning here is that when we have a path, there are 3 aspects. There is the actual physical road where one can go. There is the vehicle to be used. And then there is the going through the path, taking the vehicle and going through the path, taking the road. The actual path is the teachings of Buddha to enlightenment. Not only the formal teachings, but the actual path that Buddha has shown. The vehicle is the way how we use these teachings in our own life. And the actual path following is us putting into practice the teachings. So when we talk normally about the path, we refer to us walking the path, going through the path. This is what we refer normally as path. In this case, Nagarjuna and Asanga, they are said the openers of the path, which means that before them there was a period in which the teachings of Buddha were still alive, some 300 years after Buddha passed away, but they were not so clearly understand. There was confusion in between. One was saying one thing, the other one was saying another. There was not so much clarity. So to go through that road was not easy. So they were the ones that cleared the road, took away the holes, made the path easy to go through. So when we had teachings that come through them, we make sure that they were not polluted. From them, these teachings went later to Atisha. Atisha came to Tibet. Not only that, we go directly to their teachings. We can read their texts. We can go through their teachings directly. And from that, these teachings have been gradually arrived to Lama Tsongkhapa. Lama Tsongkhapa gradually to his own disciples, until arriving to Panchen Lobsang Chökyi Gyältsen, gradually to Papunka Rinpoche, Trijang Rinpoche, to our own root gurus arriving up to us. And that's the way how we can assure that it goes through an uncontaminated path. The other very, very important aspect is that when we talk about the teachings of Buddha being kept alive and being passed by from generation to generation, is not only conceptually, but also through direct experience. And this is what is called in Tibetan Lungi Chokor and Tokpe Chokor. Lungi Chokor is turning the Dharma wheel of oral transmissions. Basically, is the fact that Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths and we still talk about the Four Noble Truths. We have not made up 5 Noble Truths or 2 Noble Truths, because in the Western world people don't like to talk about suffering, so we take out the first 2. We are not doing anything like that. We give the teachings as was given originally. The same examples, the same transmissions. Now come to my mind one time when we did Guya Samaja retreat and we needed to do the fire puja. And I didn't have a text of fire puja of Guya Samaja that was composed easily to follow, so I went to look through it. So I took the text which was written by Kedrup Rinpoche, the direct disciple of Lama Tsongkhapa, which is a few centuries ago. And when there is this explanation of how to do the fire puja of Guya Samaja, it's exactly the same by every minimum detail of what is done nowadays. So there is this very, very precise way of following the steps and the explanations. All the examples that we're giving since centuries, they are continuing to be given the same examples. There is, in many ways, like bodhicitta is the same. It's not like we change new ideas about bodhicitta. There is a transmission which is given coherently because the source is pure. But that's not enough. We also need Tokpe Chokor, which is the turning Dharma wheel of realizations or understanding or direct experience, which means to teach about bodhicitta, I must have a direct experience of bodhicitta to be able to transmit it. And we have this great fortune that we come from a lineage that is uninterrupted, not only through knowledge but also through experience. The other example that is given is that if we can make in our own house, we can make the most beautiful light system. We put beautiful lights and lamps and we pass the cables perfectly and we do everything beautifully. But if between our house and the main power source, one light pole falls and the line is cut, what happens? We cannot turn any light on. Similar to that, if between us and the original source, Buddha Shakyamuni, in between, someone cuts the line by not having the realizations, then we are not able to get it even, also. And one of the aspects of that, for example, is Guru Puja. It's one of the main aspects is cultivating a pure relationship with the Guru, which Buddha explained in different occasions how important it is. And this is something that we are very fortunate that our Guru, in this case, I think Lama Ganchen, has a pure relation to his Guru Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche. Kyabje Trijang Rinpoche had a pure relation to Papunka Rinpoche. And like this we can go on and on until arriving to Lama Tsongkhapa, and like this we go on until Buddha Shakyamuni. So, this is something that is the most valuable of all. Because if, for example, I cut and I break my own relationship with my Guru, how is it possible to break the relationship with the Guru? Losing faith, losing trust. That's enough. If I lose faith, if I lose trust, there is that pure trust, that pure love, which goes from Guru to disciple constantly. Once that trust is broken, then the line is broken. And then, after me, anybody can trust me as much as they want. I cannot give anything to them because I have nothing to give because I've lost it myself. This is one of the main reasons. I take the opportunity just to add something in between. That in this past 20 years there have been different situations within the Tibetan Buddhist community and so on. with the whole issue of Dorje Shukden and so on. But the main issue within it has nothing to do truly with Dorje Shukden. The reason why our gurus have been so strongly keeping one's own position and doing everything has nothing to do truly with Dorje Shukden. Has to do with keeping purely the relation with the Guru. Keeping the line on for us. Because if one of them loses the faith, loses the trust, and the pure relation with their own gurus, then they have nothing to give on to the next. And this is the main issue. So our gurus kept it purely with their own guru and let this go on. That's why when I was once in Tibet, came some monks from the monastery of Chökyi Gyältsen, near Tashilumpo, near Lhasa, and then they between Lhasa and Shigatse. And they asked me, can you give us some teaching, some transmission of the three main aspects of the path? And I said then, but why me, I am not the most versed person with the greatest knowledge of Buddhism and so on. There are many monks here with much better knowledge than me. Why did they can do? They said, because you come from a pure lineage. And we want to create a connection with that lineage. So we have this fortune within our hands. So as we go to the Guru Puja, when we say Guru Puja in Sanskrit, it's because it comes from an uninterrupted lineage, not only of verbal explanations, of techniques to follow, but from heart-to-heart connection, from guru to disciple, from master to disciple, from father to son, from father to daughter, up to us. And this is something that has no price. It's something that goes beyond anything that we may ever be able to look and to pay and so on. And we have this great opportunity, so we should take good care of it. And just one thing before to conclude for today. Someone may think, but I don't have a very pure relation to the Guru, I have doubts, I have this, I have that. To have a pure relation to the Guru is not easy and is not obvious. If it was easy and if it was obvious, there would be no need of Guru Yoga practice. There would be no need of hundreds and thousands of pages of lammering explanation of how to rely upon the Guru. There would be no need of so much emphasis into this part of the path, if it was easy and if it was obvious. We have the fortune that we are in a path, in a lineage that gives us this pure connection. Now we need to develop within ourselves, and that's why we do the Guru Puja. That's why we study, we practice, we train ourselves, because it's not obvious and it's not easy. It takes a lot to be able to do that. It's not something simple, and it's not something for beginners. It's something that we should cultivate through our lifetime. Once we get it, then all the rest goes very smoothly. Until we generate a truly pure relationship with the Guru, it's like taking the boat on the earth. Once we create that relation purely in the correct way, it's like putting the boat in water. And it just flows. Still need energy, but then it flows. Okay? So tomorrow we will continue with the text. Jetsun lame kotse rapten chin namkar tille chochur gepadam losan tempe drome sasum ki drove minsel tak yurche sashe peke chushe metota rira lishe nide gembade sange shindo mikte urwarage droganamda shingla chepra sho yedam guru ratna mandal kam niryatayami chancho semcho rinpoche ma ke panam ke gyuroche ke pa nyambra me paya kongne konto pelwar sho nimo dele tsendele nime kunyan delekshin ninsen takto delekpe koncho sumke chingelo koncho sumke madruk sol kuncho sumke trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realization and spring all the path of our lives to its various signs of auspiciousness. Om Ahum Tamba Lama Sangye Rinpoche, Kyepa Lama Thamcho Rinpoche, Dremba Lama Gendu Rinpoche, Kyamme Kuncho Sumla Chopa Bu Locho Sambo Pagyu Trashi Pa Tuche Timbe Trinle Ya Pege Drono Zambe Zebrachi Pande Lame Shela Chopa Bu Kanshi Dremba Samge Chinange Parche Kunsele Shi Trinle Tsoze Gyache Shugwe Ringa Tsetensun Kordan Chela Chopa Bu Kenum Chochi Sowa Tab Daso Kanto Nebe Sachotir Neda Ulbon Tapso Shivadan Chedan Trashi Pelwar Zedu Sol